Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for the 29th of January. Yes, the first month of the year is almost gone, and joining me on this edition, Assistant Editor Steve Withers.
Hail Satan, and have a lovely afternoon, madam.
News Editor Mark Hodgkinson.
Would Sir care for a drink?
Audio Reviewer Ed Selley.
May I suggest Twinkies and a 1937 Chateau Yquem for pudding?
And special guest, Mark Botwright.
AIDS!
As you can tell, it's Oscar season. The performances are on the general up there in terms of acting. Well done, guys. Unfortunately, you missed the nominations. Steve, was there anything controversial this year?
Well, surprising. I was very surprised to see The Shape of Water get the most nominations, 13, which is not quite a record, but close. I think the record's 14. You know, because it's a fantasy. You know, it's a fantasy film directed by Guillermo del Toro. I'm really glad to see he's been nominated, and he's been nominated because I think he's a great director and worth recognition. But yeah, no, that was a bit of a surprise because you think, you know, it'd be things like The Post and sort of all the wordy stuff would do well. But Shape of Water, 13 nominations. I don't know whether it will actually win any of the big awards. I mean, obviously, Best Actress is going to go to Frances McDormand. I'm pretty sure Gary Oldman's going to get Best Actor, which is long overdue. So fair enough there. Supporting Actor, I think might go to Sam Rockwell. Supporting Actress, I'm not quite so sure about actually. Yeah, it's so the actors things. I think they're sewn up. If you look at the other awards, but
it's 90 years. It's a 90th edition, and it's the first time a female has been nominated as a cinematographer.
That's incredible, isn't it? There's only been 5 women nominated as Best Director, and obviously Catherine Bigelow is the only woman to ever win an Academy Award for Best Director. I'm sure there'll be plenty of right-on comments at the show about women's rights and equal pay and all that sort of, because there've been loads and loads of obviously quite a lot of controversy, not just in terms of pay for women in movies, but obviously the whole Weinstein thing as well. So I noticed Casey Affleck is not doing the normal thing, presenting, because he won last year for Best Actor. He's meant to present the award for Best Actress this year to whoever wins.
So is there a new section for Best Alibi this year then?
Yeah, he's not turning up because he's been under a cloud for a few years about inappropriate behaviour when he was shooting I'm Not Here. So well done, Casey.
I look forward to Best Denial of Sexual Harassment.
Yeah. So I think it'll be an interesting show. And like I say, the fact that Shape of Water has been nominated for something, I'd love to see it win. I'd love to see.
Can I be honest here? I've never heard of this film.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a new film from Guillermo del Toro. Basically, it's about a woman, Sally Hardwick, who is, I think she's mute, but she's working in a lab, and it's in the 50s. I think it's set in the 50s, and it's almost like a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, because they have this creature in a tank, and it's a love story between her and the creature, and also there's a whole subplot with spies and the commies and this sort of stuff. But it looks quite interesting. I believe that's what they were referred to back in the 50s and 60s.
Filthy Reds, I believe.
Commies, Pinkos, all those.
Yeah. As a child of the 70s and 80s, I grew up under the shadow of nuclear war. I feel entitled to refer to them as commies.
Okay.
All right, you do what you do.
Yeah. It feels like the kind of film, though, that's come into prominence because perhaps in a way Hollywood's kind of wanting to turn away slightly just this year from everything that feels like the establishment, things like The Post, that perhaps in other years I think would have been more of a front runner.
Yeah, I also don't think it's a particularly strong year. So we'll see. I'd love to see when it could well just pick up.
It's not a strong year when the Last Jedi is picking up nominations.
Yeah. Actually, Logan got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which is interesting. I see a comic book movie get in there with a serious award rather than just the technical stuff.
So why was there because Wonder Woman wasn't nominated? I didn't get that at all. I must have missed something there.
Yeah, I've seen Wonder Woman twice. It's a fun movie, but I don't think it's a brilliant film. It's just better than the other DC movies, which are pretty dire. Yeah, I think it's the whole women, power to women. I mean, we're going to come back to this particular subject, I think, towards the end of this podcast. I'm all for equal opportunities, but there seems to have been a massive swing recently in the other direction as far as female movies go and female roles in films. And perhaps it's gone a bit too far. Although Wonder Woman was fun. It was a fun.
Okay, so that's the Oscars. It's looking really interesting this year. Let's move to competitions. Mr. Botwright, you're here. Well done. Happy New Year. And what can we win?
All right. Yep. You can win Batman Gotham by Gaslight on DVD, and that one runs till the 29th of January. And we've also got Kingsman, The Golden Circle on Blu-ray, and that one runs till the 5th of February.
Don't ever let it be said that we're not retro on the podcast. And previous competition winners?
Yep. Will Burnett won a Blue Sound Node 2 courtesy of Sevenoaks Sound and Vision.
Oh, well done to you. So that's competitions out of the way. Let's move on to hardware news. Right, so CES is just finished, just out of the way. We're just recovering, and Philips decide that they're going to launch their new TV lineup, and Steve has to get on another plane and go all the way to Amsterdam. Oh, we really feel for you.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, I suppose. Although the flight was delayed and our flight back was cancelled, so that was good news. Although they cancelled the day before.
I worked really hard to try and leave you in Amsterdam. It was a lot. I pulled a lot of strings behind the scenes to try and have you isolated there, and it just didn't come to pass. So yeah,
could you not have just put something in his backpack or something?
I didn't. You see, I'm only passively malicious. I didn't want any harm to come to him. I just wanted to inconvenience him in every possible way.
Well, you'll be glad to know that KLM did that for you.
Excellent.
I did actually ask Phillips, I said, why are you holding it so soon? Because normally it's in February. So soon after CES. I said, well, we were trying to, we weren't actually at CES this year, so we wanted to do something as soon as possible afterwards. I said, yeah, it was a real pain in the arse because I've just got back from one thing and I got a flight to another. But yes, they basically were launching their new TV lineup. And the emphasis is very much on OLED, as with most manufacturers this year. Before you
go any further, I'm going to ask a question that everybody listening to this podcast and everybody on the forums is going to ask. Are they actually going to sell them in the UK? Are they going to be in stock anywhere?
Yes, they are determined, and I have this from Graham Speak, the managing director. He said we are going to get them in the stores. He was actually in the middle of a conversation. He was having a big deal. I don't want to go into details because it's not public yet, but yes, they are definitely trying to get more store coverage. They also had some really nice in-store displays that they've got lined up so people can actually see these TVs in action, because that's one of the big problems they've got. Even if you can buy them, it's quite difficult to see them. And if you see Ambilight in action, it can be quite, oh, that looks nice. So they got in-store displays. They're going to be in more stores in the UK, and they're going to be in stores in the first half of the year. So they'll be there in time to, but basically they like every manufacturer, they want to get everything in the stores before the World Cup kicks off.
It's still quite a relative term, though, isn't it? In more stores, they couldn't be in less, could they?
Well, the Richard Sounds and John Lewis, I think, stock them. So there's two major. I mean, it's only three, really, isn't there, these days? Plus some online retailers. So I mean, yeah, but they are aware of the fact that in the past they have failed to deliver on time, or in sufficient numbers, or in sufficient stores. So apparently they did the OLED, the 9002 that they released towards the end of last year. They actually ran out of stock because it sold quite well. So yes, they're aware of their failings in these areas and are addressing them as much as they can this year.
Okay, so assuming that we can go out and buy them, what are they launching?
Yeah, so OLED-wise, they've got 3 new models coming. The first one is the 873. Now, rather confusingly, the 873 is identical to the 9002. It just uses a 65-inch screen size rather than a 55-inch screen size. And trust me, the guys from Philips don't know why Taipei insisted on changing the number, because it's just going to cause a degree of confusion, I think. And also, you think if it's gone from 9 to 8, is a less capable TV? No, it's exactly the same. It's identical, just has a 65-inch screen size. People were asking for that last year on 9002. They wanted 65-inch, so I think that's good news, although slightly confusing in terms of its naming number. But they've got that coming out. They've also got the 973. This is also a 65-inch only. We actually got a first look at this at IFA, though they had a different model number back then. But the 973 is 65-inch, is basically the flagship OLED for the year. Has a built-in sound base. Uses a glass backing, very similar to LG, with also a metal construction. It looked really nice, which I've got to say was a very attractive television. And the sound base can be swung backwards for wall mounting and used as a stand, very similar to the G6 and 7, actually. So that was a very nice looking telly. I thought that looked great. And they've also got those two will definitely be out first half of before the World Cup, basically. They'll be out. And then there's also the 803. That's got a more simplified stand than the other two TVs. And that comes in 55 and 65 inches, and that will be out probably second half of the year.
Prices?
No, they haven't mentioned prices yet. They're, like everybody else, they're waiting to see what LG price at before they start talking prices. But one thing I will stress is that all these models all have the same picture performance. So they'll got P5 processor. They have HLG, hybrid log gamma, and they'll also be supporting HDR10 plus out of the box as well. So in terms of Europe, Philips TP Vision are supporting HDR10 plus. Rather confusingly, in the US, where Philips' brand is owned by Funai, they're supporting Dolby Vision. But in Europe, it's HDR10 plus, and the reasons for that are basically it's royalty free, and they just think it's going to be a more more popular format ultimately. That's there. We'll come back to that again in a minute. Sorry, Mark.
Sorry, I was just going to say, did I read right that though they're going to have different operating systems on throughout the range?
The majority of their range, all the OLEDs and most of the LCD TVs, down to the 7000 series, will be Android, as they've been using for the last few years. So they've got Android in them all, Android M, I think it currently is, and they will include Google Assistant built in. However, the 6000 series is using a Linux-based smart platform, and that's got a new operating system. They're calling it Safi, and it looks quite similar to WebOS and Tizen, that kind of stuff.
Is that an absolutely fabulous reference?
No idea, but yes, you're absolutely right, Mark. They're on the 6000 series at least, LCD, that will be the case. Although the majority of their TVs are actually Android, and they also have a new system where you can set up your TV if you've got an Android smartphone. Although when they were trying to demo it, it didn't work because there were too many Bluetooth devices in the room, and once everyone had left, and I was standing behind filming some things, the guy did it, and so now it works. I said, yeah, it's always the way. But that's what they've got in terms of smart platforms. So that's the OLED lineup. In terms of the LCD lineup, they've done an interesting thing here. They've gone for their 8000 series, which is their flagship LCD TVs. They've gone for IPS panels. They're using NanoCell IPS, obviously provided by LG, I assume. And when asked why they did that, they said, well, VA is great for black levels, but the viewing angles are terrible, and people in lounges tend to be sat in off at angles stuff, and we just thought they needed a wider viewing angles, and we can get 90% of DCI-P3 with NanoCell, and we think the performance is great, so we've gone with that for the 8000 series, which is the flagship. However, the 7000 series and the 6000 series do use VA panels, and also are using direct LED backlights, although they don't have local dimming, but they do use a direct LED backlight, whereas the 8000 series is edge lit, but has local dimming as well. So their flagship TVs look quite similar in terms of performance to LG's new flagship series of LCD TVs. I was going to say, sorry, and also the 8000 series will have P5 processing, and therefore will also have HDR10 plus. As to whether they'll be upgrading older TVs like the 9002, for example, which uses the P5, they couldn't confirm at the time whether they'll be updating that for the HDR10. I'm sure they will try to, if they can, but they didn't want to confirm either way because they were still working on it. So that's coming. And interestingly, there was a plenary the day before where the European head was talking about things, and his opening sentence was, we're talking about picture quality. He goes, yeah, we're interested in what we can do now, not what might be available in 5 to 10 years. Obviously a direct dig at Samsung's micro LED. And their emphasis is very much OLED's here, OLED's works, we've got it right now, and it delivers the best picture quality currently, and that's our emphasis in terms of our lineup. But we also do LCD because they're the big sellers in the mid-range, aren't they? So
are they dropping the POS prefix this year?
Yes, they are.
That's wise.
Yeah, wisely they have dropped POS. I think, but unwisely I think they're using PUS instead, which doesn't really help much. But yeah, I did laugh.
PUS5Y.
I did laugh when they said yes, we've dropped POS. I think people did, because obviously a lot of the stuff is decided by Taipei, so there's a language issue, things like that, and someone must have pointed out to Taipei that POS may have not been the best choice for a prefix.
I'm assuming everything's still Ambilight though.
Oh god, yeah, lots of Ambilight. Yeah, interestingly, they are indeed. It's a unique feature for them, and it's very popular. Mark, you like a bit of Ambilight, don't you?
I love a bit of Ambilight. Yeah. I do.
I noticed on one of the threads someone said, "Oh, why isn't it four-sided?" Well, the thing about four-sided is obviously you've got a stand in the way. So, for example, the 973, the new flagship OLED, it's got a sound base, so they couldn't put LEDs along the bottom because there's nowhere to put them. The sound base is in the way. So, yeah, wall mounting can look amazing if it's got a foot. They do some four-sided Ambilight models, not many, but they do some. And on wall mounts, they do look pretty impressive. But it depends on what other things are built into the TV and how practical it is. But so Ambilight, that was that. They have. They've obviously dropped a few things like in the past, like what was it? Not Ambilight. What was the one with the projectors behind them that spread it across the entire wall? That seems to have been quietly dropped. I think that was a bit mad. But Ambilight itself, I think, is actually quite a good feature. And I love, in the evenings, a bit of neutral bias light behind the telly. It's fantastic. So, and a lot of people love gaming with full-on Ambilight on. It really immerses you in the game. So yeah, it's a nice feature, and obviously it's unique to them, so they were pushing it quite heavily. And just one other thing, along with the smart platform, they've also got 2 remote controls now with the higher end models, at least. The standard dual-sided remote with the QWERTY keyboard, and also a really cool-looking sort of really thin remote with very basic controls, and also voice control, which ties in with the Google Assistant. And that looked quite cool, I have to say. Right,
okay, so that's Philips' new TV lineup. Hopefully there will be in the shops. When, Steve?
Before the World Cup. I'm definitely before the World Cup.
So any time between
early June,
February and end of May, right? Okay, and of course we'll be getting them in for review as soon as they have any available. Now, Mark, you've moved over to Philips OLED TV. How are you finding it?
Yeah, mostly really good. I mean, the picture quality wise, it's very difficult to fault. The software is a bit of a dog's dinner. I don't really use the inbuilt Android stuff because it's just not up to the standard of external devices that I've got. The Ambilight has an issue with the ISF setting. Unfortunately, that the top Ambilight is quite a bit greener than the other 2 sides, which is quite noticeable when it's really quite dark. But yeah, in terms of picture quality, I'm really, really, really pleased indeed. I don't like the remote. That big remote's awful. I don't think that's terrible. It's like a brick. I don't use that anyway. I use my Harmony. Yeah, honestly, for the money I paid and for what I need it for, I'm really very pleased with it.
Okay, cool. And you can control your lights with it as well.
I can control my lights with it, and there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, there you go. You're easily pleased.
Nothing at all.
Nothing beats that.
Jesus Christ, you have fallen a long way, haven't you?
I'll tell you, watching Blue Planet with Ambilight on Relax, it's a lovely experience. Very nice.
All right, so you actually go for using it with the TV, not just as a bias light?
No. As I say, the bias light is not that great because it's got a green tint to it to the top. That's a software problem, I can tell, because it can go completely neutral. So hopefully they'll fix that. But yeah, it's when I'm watching late at night with all the rest of the lights off. Relax is very gentle. It's not like the aggressive game modes which flash on and off. It's just very gently changes colour just to match the outside of the screen, and it's really quite pleasant.
And it sends you to sleep a lot quicker.
No, if only it would.
Right, so that's the Philips TV lineup. Interestingly, there is a disparity between the US and Europe because they're owned by different companies, and they're both going different directions. So one's going Dolby Vision, one's going HDR10 plus. You've probably heard us talking about HDR10 plus and Dolby Vision all through our CES coverage, and it's turning into a bit of a dog's dinner, Steve.
Yeah, it is a bit. It's actually more confusing than even just Philips being, different companies owning a brand in different regions, because even within the same company, there's been disparity. So, for example, both Hisense and TCL are doing Dolby Vision in the US and in Asia, and they're doing HDR10 Plus in Europe because of differences in chipsets. So that's going to be even more confusing for consumers. Yeah, it's turning into a bit of a dog's dinner, which is a shame, because the last thing you need when you're trying to launch something new is consumer confusion. I mean, just look at what happened with, well, there's so many examples, but 3D, for example, with passive and active and all this sort of stuff. People, there are many reasons why 3D failed, but that certainly didn't help. You want something, you want a concise message that, with one format behind it. And unfortunately, having 2 different types of HDR, dynamic HDR, means that there will be some confusion. It also means you're going to have, at the moment, the way it's panning out, no single television is going to do both. So you're going to have to make a choice.
Did you hear anything at CES? Can you not have both? Dolby say you can't have HDR10 Plus if you've got Dolby Vision inside?
I don't know about that, Mark. There's no technical reason why you couldn't do both, and I'm sure that Oppo will. I mean, for example, the new flagship Panasonic player does both, which is an interesting message from Panasonic. Yeah, I know. So I'm just thinking that since that has both, there may not be anything that Dolby are saying you can't do both. I think technically there's no reason why you couldn't do both on a TV. But if you ask LG, they're like, we're not doing HDR10 Plus. It's pointless. We've got Dolby Vision, and their argument is HDR10 Plus is largely done automatically rather than a manual process with them. In terms of creating the metadata.
It's not an end-to-end process like Dolby Vision is, where it's set for scene to scene by the grader as they're doing it. that metadata is added. It's not done that way with HDR10 Plus. It automatically generates it based on what the software is picking up in the algorithm.
Yeah, and LG's argument is, well, we got software on our TVs that does that to static data HDR already, so why would we bother with HDR10 Plus? It'd be interesting to see what happens in terms of these fake dynamic metadata features, some of which I've got to say from my experience have worked quite well. But yeah, so you've got no single TV that will do both versions. There are going to be players that do both, which is handy, I suppose. So in the end, it's going to come down to numbers, isn't it? It's going to come down to who can get the most support and the most content out there. As to who would ultimately, I guess, win. I mean, the advantage of HDR10 Plus is obviously it's royalty-free. It's being heavily pushed by Samsung, Panasonic. Amazon have joined in, but they are agnostic because they also do Dolby Vision in the States, at least. Warners have joined in, but again, they're agnostic because they've been doing Dolby Vision quite heavily already. So if you start looking at the sheer numbers of who's doing what, I'd say at the moment, at least, there's definitely a greater support for Dolby Vision. I mean, in terms of TV manufacturers, what have we got? We've got LG, Sony, Vestel, Vizio, Toshiba, Lerva, B&O, in the States and in Asia, TCL and Hisense. So that's quite a lot.
Haven't 20th Century Fox HDR10 Plus?
Yes, they are, and they're exclusively HDR10 Plus. Unlike all the other studios are doing Dolby Vision, with the exception of 20th Century Fox. However, they've recently been bought by Disney, who support Dolby Vision, so that might change. When I actually asked a guy from 20th Century Fox that question, he said, "Look, I don't know. At the moment, that's what we're doing, but things might change." So in terms of manufacturers, a lot of support for Dolby Vision, particularly in the US and in Asia. And Asia is vital because the biggest 4K market by miles is China. And in China, it's all Dolby Vision. It's all Dolby Vision. I mean, Panasonic don't sell TVs in the States, and the fact they're supporting HDR10 Plus is largely irrelevant. Funai are doing, Philips, Funai are doing it in the States. So there's a lot of support for Dolby Vision in key markets. If you're looking at HDR10 Plus, you're talking about Samsung, Panasonic, and then in Europe, Philips, TCL, and Hisense.
I guess the game's changed quite a bit since the last sort of format wars that we've had, Steve, because in the past, if you look at stuff like VHS versus Beta and so on, it's not necessarily the best format that wins these things. It's usually what's got the momentum and what's the cheapest to do that wins out. The other flip of the coin, and one that doesn't happen nowadays, is that normally whatever the porn industry goes with tends to win. But now in an online world, that's not an issue for video formats now. It used to be in the past, but not anymore.
Yeah, that's actually true. It is true. Well, I think it's worth pointing out that this isn't a full-on format war, because obviously you can still enjoy the content in HDR10. So you always got HDR10. You're just losing dynamic metadata, and it's a valid argument that with the higher end, better HDR TVs, you don't really need it anyway, because they can deliver the full dynamic range within their own capability. So, it's probably of more value on less capable displays. But the problem is, certainly with Dolby Vision, the addition of royalties and everything like that makes it difficult to implement it on cheaper TVs, because it adds to the price. Whereas the largely royalty-free HDR10 Plus is obviously more appealing. However, Vestel are talking about doing Dolby Vision on cheaper models, so it'd be interesting to see how that changes the game.
It's quite
slightly.
ironic that the TVs that need it the most are the ones where it's going to cost the most to add it in.
I guess there's no licensing for HDR10 Plus, but it still has to be implemented, so they have to add up how much it's
not technically true.
There is a fee.
You have to pay a fee.
It's less than Dolby. And obviously the thing and this is Panasonic's argument, the thing about Dolby is Panasonic don't want to hand over their HDR platform to another company who has total control over it.
Well, we've seen that, haven't we? We've seen the problembles with that with Sony, haven't we, just recently?
Yeah, yes. Well, I don't know how much that's down to Dolby, how much that's down to how Sony implemented it in the first place. But certainly if you look at Android, Sony and Philips had a nightmare, didn't they, initially, by having to rely on Android.
Well, Android N doesn't support Dolby Vision. Only Android. It's native in Android N, but it's not in M, which is a bit of an issue.
So that's on the hardware side. On the software side, I think at the moment, definitely Dolby Vision has the clear advantage. I mean, in terms of software, all the studios but Fox are using it for streaming on all the various streaming services. Obviously, Netflix use it. Amazon do use it in the States, and of course Apple are using it on iTunes. So that's a a lot of, it's pretty much all the streaming covered by Dolby Vision. At the moment, the only people using HDR10 Plus for streaming is Amazon. In terms of discs, they have added HDR10 Plus to the Ultra HD Blu-ray specs. However, currently the only discs with dynamic metadata are using Dolby Vision, and that's from all the studios except at the moment Disney, who do use Dolby Vision for streaming. So I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they start using it on disc.
How many Dolby Vision discs are there? About 30 or something like that?
There's about 30 or so. So it's not a massive number, but the fact is that they are available. It is there. It's in the marketplace, and I've seen no timescale yet for an HDR10 Plus disc. And the only, I suppose the only studios at the moment who are interested in doing it are Fox and Warner. And Warner's already do Dolby Vision discs as well. So, I think definitely the balance is on the side of Dolby Vision at the moment. But of course, that could change quite quickly over the course of the year.
I guess it comes down to what's the will of the content creators to encode every scene with the dynamic metadata for Dolby Vision. That's going to cost, isn't it? That's going to.
Well, if they're doing it initially when they're doing because obviously a lot of studios use it for cinema releases as well. If they're doing it all at the same time, it's not really a big additional cost. No. Like I said, forget disc really, because disc isn't really that important in the marketplace. Streaming is where it's at.
Sorry, Steve, what did you just say?
Not for me personally, but let's be honest, everyone knows that streaming is where it's at, and Dolby definitely have a strong foothold in the streaming marketplace.
Yeah, that's the one. The red herring's the disc format. It's the streaming, and that's where it's going to win out basically. And if I was a betting man, which I'm not, because I've never put a bet on anything that's actually won, I'll go with HDR10 Plus. There you go.
I think they could just coexist, I guess, but it's not particularly healthy for the consumer.
Well, the first manufacturer that brings out everything, and I'm quite surprised that LG haven't gone with it. But then you got Samsung's involvement, so that kind of explains that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see manufacturers just biting the bullet and having both of them on there, so the consumer has a choice, and then the problem goes away, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. If I was a smaller manufacturer, that's something I'd definitely look at doing, because it gives you an immediate marketing edge, doesn't it, in terms of ticking boxes in, when customers go into a shop and think, oh, this does everything, I'll have that one then. And that's a point I did actually mention to Philips. I know you royalties and everything, but from your perspective, wouldn't it be great just to be able to tick all the boxes?
The chips have got me there, haven't they? And the chips aren't there.
It's the thing, it's the chipsets. There's a lot of behind this, there's a lot of other reasons why. Like I said, if you look at TCL and Hisense, they do Dolby Vision in certain regions, but the chipsets they're using in Europe don't support it. So it isn't an option unless they did a back-end chipset like Sony. And apparently they were saying that, Dolby weren't too keen on doing that. So a lot of it's down to chipsets, a lot of it's down to some of it is a commercial decision, and some of it is technical. But like I said, having two different formats that essentially do the same thing is confusing for consumers in a situation where they're already relatively confused. They're dealing with things like wide color gamuts and HDR in general, the concept of HDR at all, bit depth, resolution. Now we've got higher frame rates coming. There's a lot of stuff for people to digest, and making it more complicated does not help.
See, that's one of the reasons why I think Dolby Vision will come out on top. From a purely kind of language-based perspective, you look at something that has kind of simple words that people can pick up on, it's easier to kind of slap a sticker on something with that. I think, HDR10.
Recognised brand as well.
Yeah, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, as soon as those things start to kind of slightly fragment people's understanding, Dolby Vision is just, it's almost become like a byword for video excellence that the general public, are starting to pick up on already. You see it, with 4K Blu-rays and even games and streamed content. The little thing pings up on the corner of a screen that you're looking at in a shop, and people recognise it already. I think it's
Well, Dolby's been around since the 70s, so it's a name it's a brand that is well known.
Exactly. I think they've got that momentum behind them. I guess the major thing will be kind of Amazon when it comes in with all of its content. Supposedly, I think that's by the end of the year. They reckon they'll have stuff out, and if they release just a huge truckload and they sign up another big series like they did with the Grand Tour or something like that, that might swing things. But I just think that as a term that people can recognise, Dolby Vision is kind of already fast becoming established.
It's a good point, Mark. And also, if you look at the manufacturers themselves, they have a bad habit of you've got HDR10. and HDR10 plus, but they'll also go and call things like HDR active and HDR prime and HDR this and HDR that, which is just going to confuse the consumer even further. So yeah, it's a good point.
And the thing that I learned for many years of going into people's houses is that the general public have no idea how to set up their TVs up anyway. The number of houses I went into where the TV was an absolute disgrace, and but people didn't care. And if you got that, and you've got 1,000 nits brightness and all the rest of it, and HDR and wide color, and let's face it, not a lot of people use disc players nowadays. So it's streaming. There's a lot of streaming issues, and it's just a nightmare for the average consumer. Absolute nightmare. And what you want is a system that works from one end to the other and does it automatically. But that doesn't sell TVs, because you need marketing angles, and you need to say, well, our TV does this and does that, and it's to the detriment of the end user at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true. I'll tell you what has impressed me over the last couple of years. And again, Philips did a demo of their new processor, the replacement for P5, which is coming at some point. And I've got to say, the level of processing power and what they're capable of doing these TVs now is quite incredible at times. There was a time when you would say, like, oh, you don't, all this processing, you should turn it all off. And if you're a purist, absolutely you should. But sometimes you look at it and think, like, actually, you know what, that does actually look pretty good. And even comparing the new processing against the P5, I'm not saying stuff things into vivid mode, but there are aspects of the processing that really do add to the image quality, particularly when you're dealing, like you say, Phil, with less lower quality sources to start with. These new AI and neural networking processors that they're bringing in are quite impressive.
But the one thing that I don't believe any of this will help at the end of the day is because on the CES show floor, the majority of TVs had frame interpolation switched on, and not one person complained. That's the end. That's just...
Well, I mean, that's going to be a moot point, I think, going forward to a certain degree, isn't it? And not so much with films, there's still going to be an issue there, but certainly with broadcast television. I mean, with the advent of HFR, the TVs will actually be natively showing.
That's fine. But every film demo that we saw on the show floor, and even behind closed doors with people who should know better, frame interpolation was switched on every single set. Yeah,
it's a shame.
We're doomed.
Although, interestingly, when they did try at higher frame rates for films like The Hobbit and Billy Lynn's Long Half-Time Walk, there was a big backlash. People didn't like it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just something to do with TVs.
I don't know. It's just one of these things. It drives me mad. I can notice it as soon as maybe it's just because I'm so used to watching 24p and so on. But as soon as I see it, and it doesn't look natural to me at all.
No, it's weird.
Yeah, it always beats me how people can watch. Can't notice this horrible, shimmery, silky, soapy effect.
What Ambilight?
No.
Sorry. Yeah, I know what you mean, Mike. Right. So just to wrap up on this section, wrap up on hardware news, we managed to go to Dolby Cinema. Thankfully, we didn't go and see the Last Jedi in it. It so happened that the evening we got there and we're totally jet lagged, and we went to check what was at the Dolby Cinema. It was the Last Jedi, and we're thinking, oh god. But they changed it to Jumanji the next again day. So we thought, yay, we're going to get our tickets and go and have a look at Dolby Cinema and see what it's all about. Now, the first thing that confused us, well, I've got to say, it's a nice idea. What happens is you walk through this sort of black entrance. It's a curved entrance with a screen, and there's about 3 or 4 projectors showing sort of stars and other things on the screen as you walk in. Problem was that these projectors have obviously been running day in, day out, and the bulbs were about to go on them because it wasn't a very bright experience when you're walking in. So we weren't seeing it at its best at that point. You walk down the corridor, you have a choice of going left or right into the auditorium. The other thing that I noticed straight away as soon as I walked in was that the screen aspect ratio, well, it was an IMAX screen, basically. The screen next door was an IMAX screen. It was pretty obvious that this had been an IMAX screen because it was the same ratio. It was just, floor to ceiling. So that surprised me to begin with. The chairs, Steve. The chairs were just something else, and seemingly this is all in the spec for a Dolby Cinema. So each Dolby Cinema has to have these things as you walk in, and as you use the facilities. And the chairs are one of them. And I've got to say, it's the comfiest cinema chair I have ever been in. I thought I was going to fall asleep. I was thinking this is disastrous. This jet lagged and all the rest of it, and feet up, back of the chair back, almost lying horizontal watching the film. So that was good. It was an interesting auditorium design because it was also almost like a semicircle, wasn't it? The way that they designed the screen rather than the usual square design. Which was interesting. I don't know if that's in the Dolby specs or not. Again, it could just be that this was an IMAX screen originally.
Yeah.
The other thing is the number of rows and how many rows and the space between them and the height between them. So you've got a clear, unobstructed view, a bit like stadium seating, but with these leather recliner things. So it did take up a hell of a lot of space. And if you equate that to a UK cinema, Steve, it's like you're going to be cutting the numbers from maybe a 200-seater screen down to maybe 100 by the time you get all these chairs in and all the rest of it. Another thing I didn't like is if I was going on my own to watch a film, because these leather chairs they were like a couple's chair, weren't they?
Can I just say that's exactly the same as the one I sat in to watch The Last Jedi last night?
Right.
I went to one
like it's like a kind of couch seat, 2 recliners, a little electric recliner. You can go all the way back.
Yeah. Lovely
comfy seat. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But what I was saying there is though these were couples seats, and I didn't mind sitting next to Steve. But if I'd been there on my own, it might have been a bit more uncomfortable. I don't know.
It is a bit weird with someone else sat next to you.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the auditorium was totally blacked out properly.
Yes.
Because I don't know about anybody else, but like my local Odeon, you could read a newspaper, but the amount of ambient light in that bloody
my
auditorium.
one isn't as so bad, but then it's a brand new design, so it's got proper LED downlights, so it doesn't. It only lights up the pathways, if you know what I mean. So it's not too bad. Anyway, I guess what we're saying is the experience walking in. It was a nice experience. It was a bit of theatre, basically, which is what's missing at cinema nowadays. I think is the whole presentation and a whole bit of theatre and all the rest of it. Steve said to me beforehand, "This is American cinema. There won't be any adverts played." Yeah, okay, Steve. There was obviously a separate projector. It looked like it was a 480 resolution projector that was on showing these adverts on a loop. So once it got to the end of the loop, you got the adverts again that you'd just seen 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think the difference between the US and UK is that what they do is they basically show adverts on a loop between screenings. So the screening started, I don't know, at 7:45, didn't it? So at 7:45, the adverts stopped and then they went into trailers. So I suppose if you turn up at the time of the screening, you dodge the adverts.
There was adverts in between the trailers as well. It wasn't advert free at all.
Wasn't as bad as the UK though.
Well, okay. I've got to say the trailers for Dolby Cinema were really impressive. We didn't get the one that had the black screen and it comes up with the projector still on, which is the one I really wanted to see because I've heard it discussed quite a few times, but it didn't come on our screen. But the ones that did come on, the thing for me was the sound design, the way it worked in Atmos. None of the speakers were hidden; they were all on show. So you had the 2 rows on the ceiling, you had the row right around the whole cinema, and it was every row had a speaker basically shooting down it. And then I don't know what was behind the screen, but it was bloody impressive. It was the type of sound pressure that moves things rather than you hearing things. It was a real experience. It was, and the film that we went to see Jumanji, which has an over-the-top sound mix anyway because it's got over-the-top action and all the rest of it. So lots of overhead effects with the helicopter rotors and that kind of thing. Birds singing. And it was the
drumming. The drumming that sort of announces the next stage of the game.
Yeah.
This drumming, it's like, and you could really feel it in your testicles.
Phil's feeling slightly less comfortable about sitting next to you now.
Yeah, I'm thinking
stunned silence.
That's what Steve was thinking.
So in terms of an experience, it really was great. One of the better cinema experiences. The only thing it let down was the cinema screen. It was the wrong ratio for the film, so there wasn't any masking either, which is a bit of shit. I think I'm a bit spoilt with the Odeon that I have because we do have electronic masking on the screens there, and it's just something about having the black edges. It just makes the image a bit more dynamic. It's a trick that the eye plays. It's something that we've always said, if you're going to have a projection system in the home, always have a black edge to the image, like a material black edge to the image. It just makes it so much sharper, and it ups the contrast. But that's one of the things that didn't disappoint me, was the contrast from the I'm assuming it was a Christie Dolby Vision projector that was being used. That's certainly the preferred model from Dolby. That's what they were telling us anyway when we spoke to them. Got to see the contrast performance in terms of a cinema projector was absolutely astonishingly good. Black levels were superb, shadow detail was excellent, and the colour was the one that really stood out. It's, you know, I don't tend to notice it that much in terms of Rec 709 against DCI when you go to the cinema, and then when you watch something at home, the colours have never popped for me in the cinema. That was one thing that really made a big difference for me, was the colour palette that was being displayed.
I suppose it was because the lasers deliver a purer colour than a bulb will. So even though it's the same colour space that's being used, DCI P3 presumably, the purity of the colours just made that difference.
Absolutely, that made a big difference. And the fact there was no posterization in there wasn't any image artifacts, even though it was a 2K DI, and you could tell it was a 2K DI. Yeah,
you can see the resolution wasn't full 4K. It was kind of noticeable on that size of screen, because it was a big screen, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 60 feet.
Yeah, it was very impressive. I've got to say, we've asked this question of Dolby for about the last 3 years. Why aren't there any in the UK? Obviously, it's down to the distributors, the cinema chains, shall I say, to want to do it. But I've got to say, even though there aren't any Dolby cinemas in the UK currently, a lot of the cinema chains are doing some really good work. In terms of, you talked about the Metro Centre. I know that Showcase have done some really nice in Bristol and down Southampton. They've got laser projectors, Dolby Atmos, the nice reclining seats, and more leg space and all that sort of stuff. So there are cinemas definitely doing similar things, even if it isn't a full-on Dolby experience. There's definitely a move towards.
Yeah, it's like
the difference. I think is you've got to pay through your nose, haven't you? How much does it cost to get a good?
Well, that's it. I mean, the cinema chains would have to drop a hell of a lot of money. They have to meet certain. It's like having THX certification. You got to meet so many performance points, and it has to be designed a certain way, and all the rest of it. And like we've already discussed with the TV manufacturers, some people are like, well, no, who are you to tell me how to do my thing? So they've got that to fight against. They've got to try and sell this to the cinema chains. It's going to cost a bit of money. They have to hit a certain spec. It's the same as IMAX. So if you have an IMAX cinema, a lot of the technical stuff's taken out of your hands and controlled by IMAX. Stuff like you can't turn the projector brightness down, which a lot of cinema chains do to save money. You can't do that with IMAX. They will withdraw their support of you straight away if you did stuff like that. So there's all these little hoops that the chains have to jump through to have it. And the main thing is, would it sell more tickets? The thing that surprised me was it was only $14 each. So
it was $14 each.
So what's that? Nine quid, 10 quid. So
that not so much now, 12 quid probably, about the same as you'd pay for a normal cinema ticket in the UK.
Christ, is a pound doing that badly?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I hadn't noticed. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't that expensive there. But I would imagine if that was converted to UK, you'd be paying about 17 to 20 quid for a Dolby cinema experience, and maybe the appetite's not there for that. Because I know you're paying about $17.50 for an IMAX screen at the minute, and that's like, well, that's the price of a decent Blu-ray.
Yeah, that is the downside. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind paying a lot of money for a really good experience at the cinema. What annoys me is when you're paying a lot of money for a poor experience at the cinema, which happens a lot of the time. Where the projector isn't particularly good and the screen's filthy and the lights are on in the cinema, and you're thinking, why am I paying 12 quid for that?
So some of the screens I've been to where they've been projecting it on the ceiling.
Yeah, wrong aspect ratios.
Curtains not opening.
They've only got to do one thing. Can they not do it properly?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be that presentation is more important than ever, because the cinema ticket sales haven't been that great. They kind of plateaued from steady growth over many years. So presentation becomes a bigger thing, and new experiences become a bigger thing to get people back in the cinema. So you never know. We might see Dolby Cinema. Now, Dolby Cinema is in the UK, it's just not commercially available in the UK. There are private facilities in the UK that are Dolby Cinema equipped, but not open to the public. Just to be technically
Dolby's
correct.
Office in Soho has a Dolby Cinema in it, and Dolby's head office at Wood and Bassett has a cinema in it. But obviously they are not open to the general public.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Dolby Cinema. 2 thumbs up from us. We hope it comes to the UK. Certainly, it's another thing we can do when we're in Vegas, Steve, other than having the flu, is go to the cinema. Now that we know it's there, and we never know. Right. So that's it for hardware news. We'll be back in a sec with movie news. Okay, moving on to movie news, and it is movie news because none of us have been to cinema yet. I was going to go this week, and I just couldn't find anything that really piqued my interest enough to get off my lazy arse and go to the cinema.
Yeah, I fancied the Post, but I just didn't get around to it enough time. But there's not a ton of stuff out at the moment that I really need to see that at the cinema. I think it will be February where I'll be going a lot more. Some big titles coming out in February, so that'll be my big month.
So this Friday, what is there if people want to go to the cinema?
This Friday we have Lies We Tell, a Muslim-themed thriller, I think I'm best described, but starring Gabriel Byrne and Harvey Keitel, set in the UK. That's coming out. Sharuna has already seen that, actually, at a press screening, so that review can go up today. And we've got Journey's End, which is a new adaptation of the stage play set in World War One. With Sam Claflin playing the lead role, I think, and also who else is in it? Paul Bettany. So I've seen the stage play, and I think I did it at school. And also Phantom Thread, which is the new film from Paul. No, I was going to say. Try not to confuse him with
parents. Paul.
I was going to say not Paul P.T. Anderson, but Paul Thomas Anderson, the good one. The director who made Boogie Nights and Magnolia, as opposed to the guy that made Resident Evil and Pompeii. Yes, Paul Thomas Anderson, his new film Phantom Thread, which is set in the fashion industry and is stars in his last performance. Apparently, he's retiring after this, but
I'd like it if that was how Paul Thomas Anderson introduced himself, though.
What?
I'm Paul Anderson,
the good one.
Yeah.
Well, it is confusing when you've got 2 directors with very, very similar names, Paul P.T. Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson. It's like, what?
I've always suspected that's how the bad one actually manages to get stuff produced. People just make that mistake. The Magnolia guy. Why does he want to make Resident Evil? Who cares? Give him the money.
There might be some truth in that, Mark.
Phantom Thread, set in the fashion industry, and it's the last film performance of Daniel Day-Lewis. He's retiring after this, so he's nominated for.
I didn't realise it was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. That's kind of piqued my interest a bit more now.
Yes, yeah. It's kind of a thrillery aspect to it as well, kind of gothic thrillery aspect to it. It sounds interesting, and Daniel Day-Lewis is always worth watching in anything he's in. He does so few films, but like I said, apparently this is it. He's retiring now, so he won't win Best Actor because I think that's going to rightfully go to Gary Oldman, but he got nominated last Tuesday. Phantom Thread, the new film from Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right, so that's what you can go and see at the cinema. I might actually go and see Phantom Thread now. Disc releases this week, Steve.
Yeah, this week we have Kingsman, The Golden Circle, on both Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. Disappointing, I have to say, nowhere near as good as Kingsman, The Secret Service. Did you see it at the cinema, Phil?
I did, yeah. Like you say, not as good as the first one, but it had its moments. There was a few laugh-out-loud moments in there. Just not enough.
It sort of lacked the charm, I think, of the first film in some respects. Felt like like they were going for the biggest, better. Yeah,
and the whole cameo, Rocket Man cameo thing, it outstayed its welcome.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a cameo, was it? It was a full-on role by the end of the film.
Yeah, it was actually. It's supposed to be a cameo.
Anyway, that's coming out on both Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. Also out on Blu-ray this week, we have Deadfall, which is a thriller starring Michael Caine, I think in the 60s. That's getting a first-time Blu-ray release. And also a host of Hammer movies that are getting released on Blu-ray for the first time. So we've got To the Devil a Daughter, 1976, starring frankly, if her birth date is to be believed on IMDb, 14 or 15-year-old Natasha Kinski. And since she gets a kit off here, that's a bit dodgy. We've also got Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, actually one of my faves, because I thought it was such a great idea having Dr. Jekyll turn into a woman rather than just into a monster, although a psychopathic woman. I thought it was actually quite a nice spin. And they also hired Ralph Bates and Martine Beswick, who genuinely look like they could be brother and sister. So it really worked. I thought it was quite a fun movie. We've also got Horror Frankenstein, starring, as the monster, Dave Prowse, in a big nappy. And not a great film, it has to be said. Ralph Bates is playing Frankenstein himself. But it's not one of their better films, I have to say. And also, a film I've never heard of by Hammer called Straight On Till Morning, where a woman basically picks up a psychopath hitchhiker. Quite a unusual one for Hammer in that period in the early 70s. But I'd never even heard of it until this disc release. So I guess if you're a big Hammer fan, that's a chance to pick up something quite obscure. But the picture quality is actually pretty good. They've done some nice restorations on these films.
Okay, so that's the discs that you can pick up this week, and this is the point of the podcast where if you don't want to know any of the spoilers of The Last Jedi, if you want to know nothing about it, it's now time for us to say goodbye. Thanks very much for listening. We'll see you again next week. And if you're still with us at this point, it's spoilers galore ahead, people, so you have been warned, suitably warned, so if you're still here, it's all your fault, basically, if we spoil the film for you. But I wouldn't mind that anyway, because it's not a great film, is it, Steve?
No. Has everyone seen it then on this podcast?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Goodbye, Mark.
Cheers.
Fuck
Catch
off.
you later.
Okay, so
I'm
Mr. Botwright.
I'm still here.
Right, so Hodge is gone, so everybody else here has seen the film. I think the person who saw it closest to this podcast is probably Mark, because I think you saw it last night, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. I just, for clarity here, just in case I say anything that is more memory than actually in the film, I saw it on opening day and haven't seen it since. Steve?
I saw it midnight on opening day and haven't seen it since. But I've read about it a lot, to be said.
Okay, and Ed?
Or a couple of days later, so pre-Christmas. Haven't seen it since.
Right. Okay, so we've all seen it once, basically, and the thing I keep getting told by my friends who loved the film is you have to see it again. The problem is I have no desire to see it again. It's one of these films that I've walked out at the end and I couldn't care less now what happens. I'll obviously look in just to see what does happen, because curiosity will get the better of me. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not also not going to deny that I'll probably see it on opening day, but I left the cinema and even up to this point now with no desire to see it again, which for a Star Wars film is really unusual for me, because I will see it 2 or 3 times on opening day and then I'll go back and see it maybe another couple of times. I certainly did that with The Force Awakens. I did that with Rogue One. And with The Phantom Menace, I even saw that 5 times before I realised it was rubbish. Because
that's quite.
Yeah, you were just in denial. You knew it was rubbish, but you kept going back thinking maybe it'll be better this time.
Well, actually, no. I'm going to be honest here and actually say that I wasn't. I didn't hate The Phantom Menace when I first saw it. I'm going to be honest here, because it had been such a long time for a Star Wars film, and because it was a Star Wars film, and the hype that had gone with it, and the lack of internet back then. The internet was around, but it was in the very early days, and to see the trailer, it would probably take you 4 or 5 days to download the video file, given the internet speeds we had back then. So there wasn't the whole internet thing as it is now back then. And I'll be honest, I didn't hate it when I first saw it. It was only over time. It was only over time and over other viewings that I suddenly thought, you know what, this doesn't make sense. Whereas with The Last Jedi, I don't think the internet had any influence on me, because I didn't read up on anything beforehand. I watched the trailers. I didn't buy into any of the hype. I hated that film from about 15 minutes in. And the reason for that was the way that they treat the characters, and the well-known characters, the well-trodden characters, the characters who already had a story arc, who already had... you knew the character, and you knew how they would react to certain situations, and the fact that I think The Last Jedi tried to be too clever. It was far too clever for its own good, in the fact of it tried to do something different and it completely backfired for me. The minute that Luke Skywalker takes that lightsaber and throws it over his shoulder, it was a cheap laugh, and it's something that Luke Skywalker would never do. The other thing was, and it's the Luke character I have the main issues with, so I'll get off my chest and then everybody else can have a discussion about it. the fact that he was going to kill Ben because he thought he was going a little bit on the dark side. Again, not a thing that Luke Skywalker would do. This is a guy who went and saved his father because he could sense a little bit of good in him, and didn't go to kill him while he slept or anything like that. He went to confront him, and so again, that it's a major misstep in terms of the character. The character would not do that. And even though he had a conscience and switched his lightsaber off and blah blah blah, he wouldn't have been standing there contemplating that anyway. And if he was, there's a huge bit of backstory that we're not being told, or it's not being explained to us, which was a major issue for me. The whole way that Luke was treated through that, the fact that it didn't ring true, a lot of the things that he did, his character motivations and all the rest of it, just for me that was a real issue with a character, that I had grown up with and knew inside out. Sorry,
I was just going to say maybe they'll explore that if they ever do a Kylo Ren prequel trilogy.
You see, this is the problem, though. He says, I switched myself off from the Force, yet in the next breath he explains how the Force penetrates us and binds the whole galaxy. So how can you switch yourself off from the Force? There was things in here that was done for plot and nothing else, that didn't make any sense. The whole Force projection thing, absolute bollocks. That was... There's so many things wrong with this film that there's... But let me be balanced. There's a lot of things I did like in this film. So this is not going to be one big bad mouth of the whole film. There's a lot of things in there I did like. I thought were done reasonably well. I thought the effects were amazing. I thought the Falcon fighting and all that. There was stuff in there that was, yes, this is great. For me, it was just some poor decisions and poorly made film. And there's a whole section of the film where we're going to talk about where they go off on a mission, and there's absolutely no need for them to go off on this mission. If they just sit where they are, at the end of the film, they're going to end up exactly back where they were again. I'm talking about Finn and Rose, and the introduction of Rose. What a naff character she is. Finn, there was a nice arc there. He was a bit of a, I'm going to quit everything here, I'm going to run away, to the heroic thing that he was going to do at the end, and then she denied him of that.
Didn't even give him that.
What? It was just some really poor decision making. The whole thing about the ships not being able to catch up with other ships, that didn't make any sense whatsoever. The whole major plot line there that just didn't make any sense whatsoever, drew me out of the movie completely. And the whole Canto Bite thing, absolutely no need for it other than to sell toys. And it's, I don't know, it's just these are the things. The main thing for me was the way that Luke Skywalker was treated, his character. It was completely against type. It was completely against what we've seen before, and I would have bought into that if there'd been some sensible explanation as to why he'd reached that point. If we knew why he'd switched himself off from the Force, what was it about the Force that he had to destroy it all? What was it? What was the motivation? We're not told any of that. So for him to then make those decisions based on what we do know about the character from previous films made no sense whatsoever. That's my biggest gripe with the film. That took me out of the film straight away. There's lots of other things that I absolutely complain about, but I've been talking too long now, so I'm going to shut up. But for me, that is the major crux, is the way that certain characters were treated. I'm not even going to touch on the whole Leia thing, because that just makes me really angry. But there you go. That's generally my thoughts on it, and to such an extent that I have no desire to see the film, even out of curiosity to see if I was, if I would change my mind on things. I haven't got any motivation to do it, and I'm disappointed. It doesn't mean that I'm no longer a Star Wars fan. I absolutely love the original films. I always will. They'll always be a part of me in terms of my childhood and all the rest of it. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm a 43-year-old bloke, dissecting a kid's film at the end of the day. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not meant to be for me. I don't know. But for me, it's dampened my enthusiasm. And the fact that we haven't seen a Solo trailer yet kind of suggests that that's an absolute...
It comes out in 3 months.
That kind of...
seen a Solo trailer.
Yeah, that kind of says stinker to me. So, maybe Disney don't want me anymore. Maybe Disney don't want the old fans who, things have to be canon and all the rest of it. Maybe they want to annoy people, and because I've never known a Star Wars film to be as split down the middle as this one, ever.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there about maybe Disney don't want you anymore. I felt there were decisions made in this film, and I quite enjoyed it, I'll be honest, but I can see certain decisions made in this film that almost intimate to me like they want to create that schism to almost like break off from the shackles of what people expect of it. Because making a good Star Wars film, I think, is harder than just making a general kind of fun sci-fi film, something more in line with, you know, the Marvel universe, that kind of thing, with the pratfalls, with the little jokes. I think that's a lot easier for them to make, and they want to kind of throw off the shackles of the kind of almost more serious nature of certain aspects of the Star Wars universe that led to the more kind of po-faced nature of those prequels, which is when you try to write too much Star Wars dialogue, you end up with something that's kind of bogged down and too dull. Whereas here, I think they went too far the other way with some of the kind of pithy lines and the like. The whole I'm on, you know, I'm calling for Hux and that kind of thing, you know, call waiting. I just, you know, that was in like the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a Tony Stark joke from the Avengers. This was another thing that really stuck out for me at the time. And you saying that has just brought it right back to me. Is they've watched Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers and thought, well, that's the type of humour Star Wars needs. That's how we'll change Star Wars. We'll add this in, and you know, that's obviously what modern audiences want. And that really stuck out to me.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was one point, wasn't there? One point where Kylo Ren actually shoves Hux in a kind of, you know, like a. It's almost like it's, yeah, there's a little bit of slapstick. I mean, moments like where Finn first wakes up and he falls off the table, that's fine. You can kind of play about with that, even though it's after, I think that was just after like the girl's sisters just died or something in the bombing run, you know. And so it was very kind of, it felt like they made one film and decided that they need a certain laugh at particular points.
Yep.
And so placed those in whether it actually fitted or not. And the key problem I had, which was, I think this has got the key shots absolutely bang on. I think it's got great cinematography. I think it's better than The Force Awakens.
Yep.
in all the key shots,
yep.
In all the action, the lightsaber fights are better. But just at the moment, every time when it hits something that should be a crescendo, like when Luke walks out in front of the walkers and they blast him and everything, and you're thinking, that's a great shot. And he emerges kind of as the dust settles, and then he goes to brush off his shoulder to create like a little laugh. And you just think, why would you do that? Or when the Kylo Ren's shouting for them to fire on all things, and then Hux is behind him chirping the same order because he doesn't want to be, you know, he wants to be the one in command. And they played little moments like that, and you think Grand Moff Tarkin wouldn't do that. You know, no. What's going on here? And I think there is an absolutely fantastic edit of this film. I'm convinced that would be up there, potentially, at least with maybe Jedi, something like that. With some of the better films, if you could cut out the little laugh lines, you know, Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder, little moments like that, and if you can cut out 45 minutes from the middle of this film,
well, just get rid of the
difference.
There's no need for Finn, so why does he have to wake up? Leave him in his thing and get rid of that whole storyline, and it tightens it up. And like you said, take out the little jokes, it tightens it up.
I don't even mind the fact that it's largely kind of an irrelevant part of the story. They don't have to go with everything is something designed to blow up the galaxy. You know, I like the fact that it was purely a human issue, middle of a trilogy, a human issue. Can we actually survive this? That's purely all it was about. However, they go from the first 10 minutes of, we've got to destroy those cannons on that dreadnought, and you're thinking, wow, this is the thing, but hang on, there's been no run up to this. So this can't be the main thing. And then so they destroy him. Yay! No, we've got to now destroy the tracking thing on that dread. Oh, right, now we've got to do that. And then they take 2 hours to do that. And then towards the end of the film, they end up with, one of them says, we've got to take out that battering ram cannon. And you just think, Jesus, how many things do they have to take out before they're actually safe? And I just thought, I can't sit through another 2 hours where they almost take it out and then find out that it would have made absolutely no difference. But you little moments like that kind of, I don't know, it felt very lopsided. And when they introduced characters like Laura Dern, you know, turning up and says to Leia, "You've taught me everything." And I thought, well, that's funny. I've never seen you before.
Yeah.
Never heard of you.
Yeah,
Who the hell are you?
It's things like that. But I think the thing that you hit on there was it's a mid film of a trilogy. It's not. It's a finale film. The whole pacing of the film and the whole finale of it. It's like it's not a middle trilogy film at all. It doesn't play out like one. Now, I wouldn't mind him being clever and trying to do things differently. I've been shouting out for it for years. Steve's the same. We've been saying, come on, we need something a bit more than Lucas and all the rest of it. It's quite clear from this film that Rian Johnson was not the man for this job. It was written by committee. It has loads of stupid slapstick stuff in there that comes directly from the Marvel universe. It's not a Star Wars film.
No, he would make a great Marvel film, but I think the moment for me when it absolutely kind of jumped the shark, and I should say I still really kind of enjoyed it. Maybe it was the recliner seat and that was very comfortable, but it's when Yoda turns up and says to Luke, "Did you read the books?" And he plays and then he coyly says, "Well, and it was like a line from The Big Bang Theory or something. It was one of those things where you just thought, he's tried to kind of protect these books, and now he's just saying, "Well, I didn't really read them or anything." Like a little shrug of the shoulder for laughs.
Oh,
and
no.
It was a whole.
What's he been doing on that bloody island all that time then?
Yeah, see, this is what didn't make sense for me.
He's been abusing creatures that live on the rocks. That's what he's been up to. I mean, in light of what's been going on in Hollywood, touching them inappropriately. That's.
Well, I mean, there was a whole thing there that they could have done. Because Star Wars films mirror Star Wars films, and there's a certain poetry to things repeating themselves throughout the film. It's kind of the lore of the film. You'll always get the line, I've got a really bad feeling about this. Not said at all in this film. That doesn't come back. They had a hell of a lot of punch-its, though. Yeah, but with ships. It's like there's stuff in there that shouldn't. Well, the thing for me was when she went to the seemingly the dark side of the island. There is so much they could have done with that. And again, it was another anticlimax.
See, I actually quite liked that.
I did as well, but it didn't have any payoff at the end of it, or any payoff that made sense.
But that's I would argue that's actually the better approach to take, to leave it to a certain amount to your imagination. The same as Luke going in the tree and everything, and during his own training. That leave it slightly abstract, leave it so it's in their minds, and so you can decide on what it is. The problem here is, I think, that when they do try to explain things, you realize that all the kind of smoke and mirrors that George Lucas set up, it was never meant to be kind of expounded upon. Things like the powers that they now have, you're just thinking, hang on, how does no one notice how strong Rey is in the Force when she can do virtually everything that a Jedi can do? And Snoke, we don't know
without any training as well, Mark.
And Yoda can now channel lightning from the sky.
Lightning, somehow.
The powers are so off the chart now. It's kind of got to the point where you think, Jesus, what could a full Jedi do?
Yeah, exactly. It's there's so many missteps here, and I really, don't get me wrong, I really wanted to like it. There are certain bits of the film that I really do like. I've only seen it the once, yet I can recall quite a bit of it, so it's obviously had some kind of effect on me. It's just not the effect that I wanted it to have on me. But there's lots of things in there that you mentioned that are absolutely bang on. Like I think Steve mentioned to me as well, there's a lot of humour in there that's sort of Joss Whedon-ish. And once you said that to me, it was like, yeah, absolutely bang on with that. There's bits of dialogue and there's between characters that would never happen in a Star Wars movie that are happening here, and it's a bit like, well, they've nitpicked a lot of things that they like in other universes owned by Disney, and they're trying to cram it all into the Star Wars universe, and it doesn't fit. It's so
it feels like the transition film of them trying to kind of steer this behemoth of a franchise around from heading in one direction. They gave people The Force Awakens, they gave people the one that mirrors the original trilogy, but now they're trying to steer it around to become something else. And there are moments where the bit where they're kind of riding the beasts down on that kind of a casino planet thing, and it kind of felt a little bit Never Ending Story or a bit like a kind of Studio Ghibli moment. But yet, and I actually quite liked it. It felt it was fresh. It was nice. I thought it was a nice moment, but it wasn't a Star Wars moment. That was the issue. I think it fitted in another film. If you'd just seen that moment and it was from a general sci-fi, if you took out all the Jedis, all that kind of thing, and just said this is a sci-fi film that's a bit fun, kind of something more in like the kind of Firefly universe, that kind of thing, I think you would say it's a solid, fun film, and I found it fun. It was just there were moments there that just jarred every once in a while when it was building up to a crescendo, when the atmosphere was building nicely. Throw a lightsaber over the shoulder and get a little titter, and I don't think it was worth that.
That's what was wrong for me. It was the pacing. It was the use of humour. It was the way they treat Luke Skywalker was completely wrong. The whole Leia thing. Leave it where she was. She didn't need to pull the ship towards her or pull herself towards the ship or whatever. We didn't need the Mary Poppins moment. Kill her off there. See, this is the problem. They've bet on the wrong horse, haven't they, really? Because they've killed off Luke Skywalker, they've killed off Han Solo, and the one that's left in the film is the one that's actually sadly died in real life. So they've kind of backed themselves into a corner on that one. Obviously, they didn't do that on purpose, but we don't know what they're going to
do before the next one. Are they going to do like a kind of like Alien 3 Newt, she's just dead kind of moment? She died in transport. Get over it. Yeah. Now let's start the next film.
Now you see
the cardinal crime for me on this was having Adrian Edmondson, and that was where I was actually waiting for
Eddie Hitler.
For the joke. I was waiting for the gas man line.
Yeah. There were so many things that took me out of this movie, and that was one of them. Yeah, Eddie Hitler. There's some things in here that I didn't mind that other people absolutely hate, like the whole Snoke thing. I wasn't really that bothered about that. Kill him off, yeah, fine, okay. So that kind of stays with the Star Wars lore of the apprentice has to kill the master.
Well, yeah, but it still leaves. It's just ultimately the chronology in terms of timeline for this. He has to have been someone of some relevance during the period of the original trilogy. So who the piss was he? Yeah. That just annoys me.
Yeah,
he's like
it was an annoyance, but I didn't hate it.
That's who he is. He's kind of waiting in the background for his moment, and once they're all dead, pops up and goes, "I'll take over now." Yeah,
well, I think there's more to it than what we've been told, which is why I didn't quite hate it as much as I hated everything else. They did choice-wise. I didn't find that too bad. The reason we're not going to Steve is I know Steve's got a whole rant and he's going to go through it, so we'll get our bit out of the way and then we'll hand over to Steve. But I didn't find that too bad, although again it was another bit of I'm going to be clever here, and it didn't quite work. Or we're going to take things in a different direction. It just felt lazy. It felt it was poor. It was poor filmmaking. There was bits in this that is really strong. There's a great edit in there for somebody, I'm sure, online who's going to come up with an edit of this film, and it'll be far better than Rian Johnson's. But there's also a feeling I get that there's a lot lying on the cutting room floor. A lot of stuff that played with different scenarios, played with different ways of doing scenes and so on. I think because it's such a mess in certain areas, I think that is probably the case. I don't think we'll ever see these deleted scenes. But
there's deleted scenes on the disc.
But there's but we're not going to get much. It'll be the same as the Rogue One stuff, where you don't get any of the recuts or whatever happened to that TIE fighter scene and that kind of thing. I think there's been a lot of stuff going on there. I don't think he's directed this and written this on his own. It's been done by committee, absolutely done by committee, and the tone's completely wrong in certain places. They've mishandled characters. And I keep coming back to it, and that is Disney don't want me as a Star Wars fan anymore. They don't want me along for the ride. I'm too old. I'm too, invested in the old characters and all the rest of it. This is the handover trilogy, and they wanted to get the handover done in the second film, basically. And now they're going to go off in their own direction. And to be honest, I couldn't care less, to be honest. So, right. So let's move to Steve. What do you think, Steve?
I hated it. Hated it with a passion, because it robbed me of any pleasure of Star Wars that I've had, and I've been a fan for 40 years since the very first film. And this just, there's first of all clearly no overriding story arc here for this trilogy, because when you get to the end of this film, it's like, well, where do you go now? He'd obviously been told by Lucasfilm, clear the slate, just wipe the decks, get rid of everything, we're going to start again. I don't know whether it was Lucasfilm's instructions or whether it was Rian Johnson's deliberate intention, but it was a massive screw you to J.J. Abrams. I mean, the first thing they do is blow up the base from Force Awakens. Then he chucks a lightsaber over his shoulder, so he just ruined the end of the Force Awakens. And then later on, what else does he do? He just kill Snoke. You know, like, so all this build up, which never mind, not important. So none of the Force Awakens is important. Doesn't matter. Just forget about it. Who's Rey's parents? No one. Forget about it. Doesn't matter. You wasted your time, fanboys, arguing for 2 years about what all this was. I can't believe that I'm 2 films in. I've still got no idea who Snoke was, where he came from, what the First Order is, who set them up,
You've
who
been
funds
trolled.
them, where do they go? What's the reliance?
You've basically been trolled. That's how I feel after it. Yeah, he's trolling you. He's don't tell me, well, it's all in the books. That. I don't want to read books. I want to see it in the film. If you can't explain your story in the film, don't bother, because I'm not interested. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then we get into the film. The actual opening bombing run was quite exciting, apart from the fact that bombs don't fall in space, but that minor point aside, I could live with that. But the whole jokey, holding on cool thing, that was totally inappropriate. Most of the humour doesn't work. It's not Star Wars humour. There is plenty of humour in Star Wars. If you watch The Force Awakens, there's some great jokes in that. But they're delivered in a different way. This was all jokey, Joss Whedon, Marvel kind of humour. Didn't work for me. So that whole opening also made Hux into a complete joke as well. So you basically made one of your villains, a joke. So he's no longer a threat. Then we get to the island, he lobs it over his shoulder. Not anything, you might think, that's my old lightsaber, where did you get it from? Who the hell are you? None of that stuff. I believe there was a hand that went with this.
Yeah, exactly. Where was the hand attached to it? So that doesn't make it, And then Luke's entire attitude just made no sense to me whatsoever. They were obviously trying to demythologize the character of Luke Skywalker. I don't want my heroes demythologized. That's the whole bloody point. So that just pissed me off. There was one moment where it could have been brilliant when R2 shows the Leia hologram from Star Wars. That should have reduced men to tears. But they f***ed it up again with some stupid comment about it's a cheap shot, R2. No, it wasn't. That should have been the moment that reminded Luke why he went on this adventure in the first place and got him back into the fight. Could have been brilliant. They balls that up too. They couldn't get anything right. And then they sod off to Canto Bight for half an hour to basically prequel land where... they don't find the guy they're looking for. They find some other bloke who just happens to be able to do exactly the same thing, who then immediately goes and betrays them when they get back. And by the way, betrays them with information that he couldn't possibly have known.
He didn't know any of that. That chronic in the timeline that hadn't happened yet, or it didn't happen in a way that he knew that. It didn't make any sense. That one. That's a huge plot hole. And
there's 2 main plot points. There's Rey on the island not getting trained by Luke, and then there's the chase. Really the slowest chase in cinema history, where you're thinking, why don't you just jump in front of them? I mean, you can see them, you know where they are. But that made absolutely sod all sense. And their brilliant plan was to basically just keep going, running out of fuel, while they'll get the little transports and then bugger off to a planet which just happens to have an old rebel base on it. Oh, well, brilliant. And they obviously had absolutely no idea what to do with Finn and Poe. Finn, they wake him up, and then they have to create another character to be his sidekick and send him off on some pointless mission. And Poe basically acts like a complete dick for most of the film because no one bothered to tell him what the plan was. Well, if you just told him what your plan was at the beginning, with no problem, he holds up, basically starts a mutiny because no one will tell him what's going on. All the male characters are made out to be complete dicks, useless and ineffective, whereas all the female characters are apparently brilliant at everything they do and really heroic and save the day all the time, even though Rose could have easily killed Finn, trying to, as you mentioned, Phil, save him from his one chance at a heroic moment. I just hated all of it. It was just crap. I don't know what the point was. At the end of it, the rebellion consists of 8 people on the Millennium Falcon, one of whom's dead in real life. So good luck, JJ, taking this one forward.
No, there was a little boy with a broom as well.
Yeah, you know
great.
what?
Thanks a lot.
That was added before the film came out. That wasn't there originally, because if you listen to the soundtrack at that moment is about to go to the dun 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 dun, but it cuts to this little boy with a broomstick, and it's like, why show me this? I already know hope exists. I already know that there are Force users out there in the rest of the galaxy, and that the rebellion's going to kick on from here. That's pretty obvious. So why are you showing me? Why are you dumbing it down to the level that you are here? Show me this kid, because if you listen to the soundtrack, the cue should go into the end titles, and it doesn't. It's an awkward edit, and it goes off into something else, and then there's another awkward edit where it goes back into where it should have been. So that was added
Maybe that's
afterwards.
what his new trilogy is going to be about, that kid, the old bugger off, which I don't have an issue with, actually. But just don't shit all over something I've loved for 40 years, you idiot.
Well, that was the problem for me. It was the way established characters were treated. That was the whole problem for me. These characters are established, we know what they're all about and all the rest of it, and what you're showing me here is not what that character would do. And the whole thing where he was going to kill Ben because he felt a little darkness in him, Jesus, Luke Skywalker wouldn't do that. That was the biggest problem for me. It was like, so this whole issue of why Ben is now, Kylo Ren and the dark side and all is the fact that Luke went into his bedroom to try and kill him. Something that he wouldn't have done anyway. You know what I mean?
At least he was just trying to kill him. It could have been worse, I suppose. Also the whole treatment of Leia. I mean, obviously it was in the script that she was in a coma for most of the film. It wasn't anything to do with her dying in real life. But why? Why stick her in a coma for the whole film? Bringing another character we've never heard of, who's, even though she's a vice admiral, apparently he thinks wearing a purple wig and a ball gown is appropriate dress for a military officer. And then
can we be clear about this? That historically, senior members of navies have worn some very stupid things. Captain of HMS New Zealand insisted on going into battle only wearing a Maori skirt, which had been donated to him. Which, given he mainly fought in the North Sea in World War I, he must have been as hard as nails. Okay, so before we end here completely, Ed's also seen the movie, funnily enough. Ed, anything to add to what's been said so far? It has a different effect on me, and it doesn't take as long for me to get it out of my system. I just simply didn't care. I didn't leave with the feelings of active hate that you two did, other than if putting a ship into hyperdrive in the general direction of your opponent does that much damage, why not do that to the Death Star?
Yeah.
That annoyed me. Otherwise, it was just the gut feeling I got from this was that in charge of the most valuable franchise there has ever been, things are no longer able to end ever. And think it will now be like a film version of that Fast Show skit, the incredibly long Big Punch Up, which will just continue forever and ever and ever and ever, with no resolution, with no finale points or anything like that. You wanted more Star Wars, you will have more Star Wars. You will have Star Wars, and you will from now until your dying day. Well, you see, it will lumber onwards,
piped into our eyes like in Clockwork Orange.
So that's it. That's the lesson I took from it. I don't have the same strength of feeling. This is in part, I have a wide, for whatever reason, the last 6 months to a year, I've had a wider malaise with cinema, full stop. And this just feeds into that. And yeah, I just came out of it and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go home, go to bed. It's just a gigantic meh moment. I agree with you up to the point where you said more Star Wars. Well, that wasn't Star Wars. So if that's now their idea of Star Wars, they're welcome to it. I'll save my trilogy, the original trilogy, and I'll be happy. There's no more Star Wars.
I'm going to go and see Solo just to see if it's a total car crash, because I've got a feeling it is going to be a total car crash.
Yeah. But as I say, this is the thing. It's you can't in possession of something that fundamentally valuable. It just has to roll onwards forever and ever and ever. So there you have it. That's what you've got. Enjoy it. Sorry, I just farted. And on that, bombshell, it's time to end. My thanks to Steve Withers.
It's not that kind of a movie.
No, it wasn't. Who else is here? Well, Mark Hodge is gone. Mark Botwright.
And yet some still doubt this is the work of the Antichrist.
And Ed Selley.
Mr. Pickle here reminds me of that every time I take a shit.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums for latest reviews, news and videos, and of course, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for listening to this extended edition of the podcast. We hope we haven't bored you too much, and we'll see you again next week.